welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into a place often called paradise on Earth, Kashmir.
Beautiful place.
Absolutely. But we're not just here for the breathtaking beauty, stunning as it is. We're here for its incredibly rich and really surprising history.
Yeah, it's a deep one.
It really is a vibrant tapestry of myth, culture, empires, stretching back thousands of years.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Right.
Our mission really is to go on a journey through the ancient and early history of Kashmir. We're talking the Vedic roots, the spread of Buddhism, powerful Hindu dynasties. We'll be digging into the key sources, ancient texts like the Nilamata Purana, Kalana's Rajataranjini, but also, what the archaeologists have found.
Exactly. And by the end of this deep dive, you'll hopefully have a clear sense of how this enchanting valley became such a cradle of culture, religion, learning.
Real melting pot.
Precisely. What's truly remarkable about Kashmir is how it forged this unique blend of traditions. It's fascinating, and it really resonates even today, a kind of blueprint for cultural synthesis almost.
Okay, so where do we start? The very beginning. The myths.
Let's do it. The Nilamata Purana.
Right, the Nilamata Purana, it's 6th to 8th century CE. It gives us this almost fairy tale beginning.
It does.
Kashmir was once this huge lake, Sagisaurus, right?
Yeah.
Troubled by a demon.
Pava, yeah. A nasty piece of work, apparently.
Until Lord Vishnu and some other gods step in, pierce the mountains, drain the lake, and... well, there you have it, the Kashmir Valley.
Wow.
It sounds like pure legend. But you're saying there might be some truth to it, geologically.
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Beyond the myth, there's compelling geological evidence that, yes, Kashmir was a vast lake millions of years ago,
Wow.
formed by tectonic shifts and later drained, probably by glacial melting and natural drainage, through the Baramilla Gorge.
So the myth kind of
Yeah.
echoes the science.
It really does. It's a beautiful example of how early people wove their spiritual stories into the very land itself. But archaeology takes us back even further than the myths.
Okay, how far back?
We're talking Neolithic, around 3000 BCE. We've got sites like Burzahom and Gufkral.
And what do they tell us?
Early Kashmiris living in pit houses, using stone tools, growing crops. Their pottery is pretty distinctive to perforated designs, this shiny red ware.
Suggesting
Suggesting they weren't totally cut off. They had connections, maybe even with the Indus Valley civilization down south.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, so these very early communities, they really laid the groundwork for this culture where spirituality and nature were just deeply connected.
Right, like Lord Vishnu, the engineer.
Okay.
So from these early folks, what's the next big step? The Vedic period, say 1500 to 500 BCE. Now, Kashmir isn't always directly named in the oldest texts, like the Rig Veda, but it talks about the Sapta Sindhu, the land of 7 rivers. Does that include Kashmir?
Well, some historians certainly think so, yeah, that the rivers flowing through Kashmir were part of that conception.
Okay.
But the sources that really bring this period, or at least the memory of this period, to life are the Nilamata Purana again, and Kalhana's Rajataranjini.
Right. What do they add?
The Nilamata Purana paints Kashmir as the sacred land, just dotted with tirthas, pilgrimage spots loved by sages. It talks about rituals, gods like Shiva, Vishnu, really setting the stage for those deep spiritual roots.
And Kalhana. He wrote much later, 12th century.
Much later, yes. But his Rajataranjini is this incredible historical chronicle. He describes Kashmir as a land of learning, says Vedic chants echoed there. Brahmins performed big fire sacrifices home. Gods like Indra and Surya were worshipped.
That's fascinating. But, writing so much later, how reliable is that for the Vedic period itself? Are there biases we need to think about?
Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial point. Kalhana was compiling older traditions, legends, records, invaluable stuff. But yeah, it reflects his time, his sources, his viewpoint.
What he thought was important.
Exactly. What he admired, like wise rulers, spiritual devotion. So for the Vedic period, we see his work as offering glimpses into how later Kashmiris understood their own deep past. And we try to cross-reference it with, whatever archaeology turns up.
Okay. So picture this then. Indo-Aryan tribes, settling, farming the rich soil, raising cattle. The mountains give some isolation, but not total. Trade routes, pilgrims keep it connected to the Indian plains.
Pretty much. And the evidence on the ground for this specific period, it's a bit scarce. Some megalithic stones, early iron tools.
But it shows the transition.
It does, moving from Stone Age towards the Iron Age, carving out its own identity.
Right. Okay, let's jump forward. 3rd century BCE, big changes coming. The Mauryan Empire arrives.
Huge changes. Enter Emperor Ashoka.
Ashoka the Great, reigned 268-232 BCE, famous for embracing Buddhism after the bloody Kalinga War.
That's right. And he became its biggest champion, spreading it everywhere, including Kashmir.
And multiple sources confirm this.
Yes, the Ashokavadana, which is a Buddhist text about his life, and Kalhana again, both mention Ashoka visiting, building stupas, monasteries.
Kalhana even says he founded Srinagari, modern Srinagar, and a big monastery, Dharmarama Vihara.
He does.
Now, this sounds like a massive shift. Was there resistance, tension with the Vedic traditions already there, or was it smooth?
You know, that's one of the really striking things about early Kashmir. While Ashoka was obviously pushing Buddhism, the sources, especially the Nilamata Purana, suggest a surprisingly harmonious integration.
Really? Not conflict.
Less conflict, more coexistence, maybe even intertwining. Buddhism seemed to find fertile ground there alongside the existing practices. It wasn't always about replacement. Sometimes it was enrichment.
And we have physical proof.
Absolutely. Sites like Harwan, Ushkor, they give us solid evidence. Buddhist stupas, monasteries, terracotta tiles with Mauryan designs, and crucially, Brahmi inscriptions.
Imperial scripts.
Exactly. It confirms a Mauryan presence. Ashoka's efforts really did turn Kashmir into a major Buddhist center. Monks, scholars came from all over Asia.
And his Dhamma,
But
his code of ethics.
that resonated deeply. It shaped the valley's spiritual life. Plus, the Mauryans brought practical stuff, roads, canals, boosted farming, trade.
And its location.
Key. Right on the Silk Route, connecting to Central Asia, Gandhara, sharing goods, ideas. This was really the start of Kashmir's golden era for Buddhist thought.
Okay, building on that momentum, after the Mauryans fade, the Kushans take over.
Right, originally from Central Asia, they rule from the 1st to 3rd century CE, big empire covering northern India, including Kashmir.
And their greatest king, Kanishka I, ruled about 127 to 150 CE, also a passionate Buddhist.
Very much so. He really elevated Kashmir and made it a global center for Buddhism.
And he's linked to the Fourth Buddhist Council, right?
Yeah.
That sounds hugely important.
Monumental, absolutely pivotal. Held in Kashmir around 100 CE, maybe at Kundalavana Vihara near Harwan.
And what happened there?
Basically, they sorted out Buddhist teachings, compiled the Abhidharma texts, these really detailed philosophical works explaining Buddhist doctrine.
So standardizing things.
In a way, yes. And it really marks Kashmir's rise as a major center for Mahayana Buddhism, the branch emphasizing compassion, enlightenment for all.
And the archaeology reflects this Kushan period.
Oh, definitely. Sites like Harwan, Kanispur, Hutmura, you find stupas with incredibly detailed carvings, well-designed monasteries, and that unique Gandhara art style.
The blend Indian, Greek, Persian.
Exactly. Beautiful stuff, testament to Kashmiri skill. And the Kushans kept the Silk Route trade booming, saffron textiles, gems going to China, even Rome.
All that wealth.
Funded more monasteries, more towns. Kashmir was prosperous, bustling. And again, the Nilamata Purana shows Buddhist and Hindu traditions mingling, celebrating festivals together. It was a time of harmony, art, global connections. Really put Kashmir on the map.
Okay, so after the Kushans, things quiet down a bit.
Yeah.
The Gupta Empire rises in India 4th to 6th century CE, India's golden age. But they don't rule Kashmir directly.
That's right. No direct rule. But their influence definitely felt. Through trade, culture, the Guptas were big promoters of Hinduism, Sanskrit, and those ideas trickled into Kashmir.
How significant was that indirect influence compared to, say, the Mauryans or Kushans actually being there? Did it maybe lay some groundwork for what becomes Kashmiri Shaivism later on?
That's a really good question. The influence was maybe less about imperial control and more cultural osmosis. Soft power, you could call it.
Okay.
Kalana mentions local Kashmiri kings who ruled independently but probably paid tribute. So there was that connection. And archaeologically, sites like Ambaran, Akhnor, they show Buddhist places were still active, but you start seeing Hindu temples too. Vishnu, Shiva, with that elegant Gupta style in the sculptures.
And the Nilamata Purana again?
Probably written or edited around this time. It reflects the growing importance of Hindu rituals, lists, festivals, customs. And yes, I think you're right. This period subtly starts laying some of the groundwork, weaving together threads that would later become the very distinct tradition of Kashmiri Shaivism.
So Hinduism is becoming more prominent alongside Buddhism.
Exactly. And trade kept Kashmir wealthy. Saffron was a big deal in Gupta markets. Plus, Kashmir really cemented its reputation as a center for Sanskrit learning. Grammar, philosophy, poetry. Scholars were drawn there.
Which leads us into another really bright period, the Karkota dynasty, 7th century CE.
A dazzling chapter, yes. Known mostly through Kalhama, again. Hindu rulers, strong kingdom, but they managed that balance, Hinduism and Buddhism coexisting.
And the big name here is Lalitaditya Muktapida. Reigned 724-760 CE, Kalhana paints him as this legendary conqueror, taking lands far beyond Kashmir.
He does.
How much stock should we put in those conquest stories? Were they very exaggerated? And what really made his rule so special?
Well, it's fair to question the scale, yeah. Some might be embellished, but they definitely signal Kashmir's power and ambition under him. Significant military strength.
Sure.
But what made him exceptional wasn't just conquest. It was his vision for culture, for building. He was an extraordinary builder, as you said.
Like Parihasapura.
Exactly. Near modern Patton, stunning temples, monasteries there, and his masterpiece, the Martansan Temple.
Incredible ruins even today.
Absolutely. Massive structure, intricate carvings, a perfect blend of Gupta and Kashmiri styles. It physically shows that cultural synthesis we've been talking about.
And the excavations at Parihasapura confirm the mix.
They do. Stupas, viharas, Hindu temples side by side. Clear proof the Karkota supported both faiths. Lalitaditya also kept Kashmir plugged into the world trade with Tang China, the Arab Caliphate. His court was a hub of learning. Scholars like Vamana, Anandavardhana, shaping Sanskrit literature.
So a real powerhouse, politically, culturally, economically.
Definitely. Thriving agriculture, flourishing arts, a high point.
And following the Karkotas, we get the Utpala dynasty in the 9th century, continuing the Golden Run.
Pretty much, yeah. And the standout ruler here is Avantivarman, reigned 855-883 CE. Kalhana really praises him fairness, wisdom.
How did that wisdom translate practically for the people?
Well, he focused on really practical stuff, fixing, improving irrigation systems. That's huge for harvest, preventing famines, a sign of a ruler really looking out for his people.
Good governance.
Exactly. He also commissioned the Avantisvamin Temple, a beautiful Vishnu shrine, another testament to Kashmiri craftsmanship, patronage of the arts. And his court, still a magnet for scholars. Anandavardhana, who wrote the groundbreaking Vanyaloka on literary theory. He thrived under Avantivarman.
Wow.
Poets, thinkers flocked there. Kashmir was a beacon for Sanskrit learning. Trade kept booming textiles, saffron still in demand. The Utpalas provided stability, which just let culture and spiritual life shine.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. We've covered a huge sweep of time. What does it all mean? What really makes Kashmir's early history stand out?
Yeah, it's quite a journey.
We've seen the Vedic roots giving this Hindu foundation, the Mauryans and Kushans making it a major Buddhist center, and then later Hindu dynasties like Karkota, Upala flourishing, but Buddhism never really disappears.
Right.
And the Nilamata Purana seems to perfectly capture that mix, listing rituals and festivals from both traditions.
Exactly. And it's not just in text, it's in the stone. Like you said, Martansan Temple, the sites at Pariyasapura, they physically show this harmony, this mutual influence.
Quite unique, isn't it?
It really is. In a world often marked by religious conflict, Kashmir managed to cultivate this landscape where different faiths didn't just, tolerate each other. They actively seemed to enrich a shared artistic and intellectual life. It's like a historical blueprint for pluralism.
And the impact went beyond Kashmir itself.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The scholars, poets, philosophers from Kashmir during these times, their work profoundly influenced the rest of India, left a huge mark on the subcontinent's intellectual and spiritual heritage, which raises a really interesting point.
Go on.
Well, the seeds of Kashmiri Shaivism, this unique, profound blend of Vedic, Buddhist, Tantric ideas, they were really sown during this whole period we've discussed. It shaped the valley's spiritual identity for centuries.
So this whole early history is key to understanding that later development.
Absolutely fundamental. This deep dive into the ancient past, it reveals Kashmir as this place where diverse traditions didn't just coexist, they actively fed each other, created something truly singular. So maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. Consider how this deep history of profound cultural synthesis might still echo in the valley's identity today, and maybe what lessons it offers us about interconnectedness, about shared heritage, even in our own complex times.